Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm Paul and with the Dicey review, and today we're going to be learning how to play the 2 to 5 player deck building game Backyard Chickens, being released by August Games. In this game, you and the other players are competing to try and collect the best flock of chickens in time to win. So how do you play? Let's get to the table and find out. Backyard Chickens comes with all of the components that you see here, including 5 player boards, 5 chicken tokens in the different player colors, 5 ribbon tokens, a starting player card, 84 egg tokens, a deck of event cards, 10 starting chicken cards, 30 thirst tokens, a deck of chicken cards, a deck of supply cards, and then 50 total starting supply cards. To begin setup, each player will take a player board and place it face up in front of them. For the starting game, make sure that it's on the side that says A. Then each player will take the chicken token in their color, place it on 2, and then place a ribbon token on the 0 space of their player board. Then each player will build a starting deck by combining 5 water dishes with 5 yard scraps cards. Make sure to shuffle them. After being shuffled, place them to the left of your player board where it says Draw Deck. Each player will then deal themselves a hand of 6 cards, and then make sure and put any of the remaining starting cards that you aren't using back in the box. Then each player will give themselves 2 of the starting chicken cards. The starting chicken cards are indicated by the red egg on the top right, and make sure to give yourself 1 each of the Buckeye and the Americana chickens. Then place 2 egg tokens in the number 1 basket on your player board. Then each player will create a personal supply pool of 10 egg tokens and 5 thirst tokens. You can just place these next to your player board. Then create the market supply deck. Do this by shuffling all of the supply cards. Once again, this is all of the supply cards, not including the starting supply cards. And then deal 5 cards face up to build the offering. Then do the exact same thing with the chicken deck. The player who most recently ate eggs is the starting player, and they can be given the starting player card. You can also just decide this randomly. Once this setup has been done, you're ready to play. A game of Backyard Chickens is played over a number of rounds, and in each round there are 4 different phases. 3 of the 4 phases are done simultaneously, and 1 phase is done in turn order. The first phase in each round is to collect eggs. All players will collect eggs based on the face-up value at the top of any of their active chicken cards and put them in their egg baskets. It's important to note that chickens will have different moods that will allow them to produce a different number of eggs. Content chickens will be placed face up in this direction, and they will produce this many eggs. If a chicken is happy, it will be rotated to this side, showing that it produces 1 additional egg. Chickens can also be sad, which will cause them to not count for victory points and only produce 1 egg. We'll go into more detail in a few moments about how chicken moods can change. In this example, at the start of the game, this player would collect 4 eggs from these 2 face-up chickens. When placing eggs, you can indicate how many you have by placing an egg token in the different baskets. Each egg placed in this basket, for instance, would count for 3 eggs. Each egg placed in this basket would now count as 5 eggs. So after gaining 4 eggs from their starting 2, this player would now have 6 total eggs in their supply. After collecting eggs, a player would turn any face-down chickens that they have in their supply face up. The chickens would mature. We'll go into more detail about how you acquire new chickens later in the video. After players have produced eggs and matured any chick cards, they would then go into the second phase, feeding and watering chickens. Feeding and watering chickens is the main way that their mood is affected in the game. Each chicken will have a required food and water value. In addition to the food and water value, each chicken will also have a type of treat that they like to eat. At the start of this phase, players would draw 6 new cards from their deck of draw cards, and if players ever run out of cards to draw, they would shuffle all the cards from their discard pile and draw until they have 6 in their hand. It's also important to note that cards may be placed in water storage, so it's possible that players can't draw up to their full hand size of 6. In the very first round of the game, you won't draw cards as you already have a hand of 6 from setup. After drawing a new hand of cards, players will be able to play cards to try and meet the food and water requirements of their flock. In addition, they can also try and give their chickens their favorite treats to make them happy. If a chicken is sad, it will be rotated to this side of the card to show the sad face on the side of the card. If a sad chicken is fed, that chicken will then become content. If a content chicken is fed, it will stay content. And if a happy chicken, which is rotated in this direction, is fed, that happy chicken will remain happy. If a happy or content chicken is not fed, in either situation, these chickens would become sad. And if a sad chicken is not fed, the chicken will run away. Once a chicken has run away, it will produce no eggs and it will provide negative victory points, and chickens that have run away can never come back. Playing a food card will generate the food necessary to feed a chicken. And it's important to note that some cards will provide more food, and this food can be split amongst multiple chickens if you want, which may meet the requirements of more than one chicken. Any food left over would be wasted. For instance, in this example, you would generate 3 food, but these chickens only need 2. You can also feed chickens their favorite types of treats. For instance, this chicken likes worms or raisins, and this chicken would like peanuts or berries. If a chicken is fed and given one of their favorite types of treats, a chicken in any mood would become happy. So for instance, even if a chicken were sad, if you feed the chicken and give them a treat, they would then become happy. If a chicken is unfed but you give them a treat, they would stay content, or an unhappy chicken would become content, and a happy chicken would remain happy. So treats can act in the place of food in some situations. You can also play water cards on your turn to meet the water requirements of each chicken in your flock. And similar to food, if a higher water value is played, this can meet the requirement of multiple chickens, but any excess would be lost. In addition to playing water cards to meet the thirst requirements of your flock, you can also play water cards into your water storage area. This will allow you to store water for use in later turns. If a chicken isn't given water, you would have to place a thirst token on that chicken. A chicken can only ever have 1 thirst token, and a thirst token would reduce the chicken's egg production by 2. It's important to note that being thirsty doesn't affect a chicken's mood, and a chicken's egg production can never go below 0. And it's also important to note that chickens that have run away require no food or water. If a chicken is thirsty from a prior round and you give water to that chicken during this phase, you would remove the thirsty token from that chicken. Players can openly display how they fed and watered their chickens for the round, and other players can feel free to review this just to make sure that this was achieved correctly. After that review is complete, any cards used during this phase that aren't going into water storage can be discarded. After feeding and watering their chickens, it will then be the go-to-market phase. During the go-to-market phase, players will take turns in turn order, and on a player's turn, they'll perform as many market actions as they want to, and then after they're done, the next player in clockwise order would go. There are a number of different market actions that you can take, and each market action would cost a different number of eggs. For 1 egg, a player could clear the market offering. They would pay the 1 egg on their player board to remove all 5 of the market supply cards and refresh them with 5 new cards. This can be done as many times as a player wants. Players can also buy supply cards from the market. Supply cards will have an egg cost in the top right of the card, and they'll also indicate in which phase the card can be played. For instance, some cards will be useful in the go-to-market phase, while many will be useful in the feed and water chickens phase. Supply cards bought from the market will either give you special abilities that you can take on your turn, treats that will make your chickens happier, or better versions of food and water cards that you can use to feed and water your chickens. After paying the egg cost, you can place this card in your discard pile to be drawn on future turns. And then a new card would immediately be drawn and replaced in the supply market. And you can buy as many supply cards from the market as you can afford. A player can also purchase a chicken during the go-to-market phase, but they can only do this once per round. The cost for purchasing a chicken is listed in the top right of the card. Once you purchase a chicken, immediately replace that card in the market row, and then place that card below your player board, but leave it face down for now. This card will flip up or mature during the collect eggs phase. Players can also pay 2 eggs to clear the market offering for chickens if they want to as well. Once again, there's no limit to the number of times that they can do this, and you can even clear the chicken offering after you've purchased a chicken if you want to. A player could also sell eggs. To do this, they would have to spend 12 eggs, putting those back in their supply. But this would allow them to move their ribbon marker 1 space further along the scoring track of their player board. This can be done multiple times in a phase if a player can afford it. And then finally, a player could pay 3 eggs from their supply to trash any card from their hand or their discard pile from the game. There's no limit to how many times a player can do this, and trashing low-powered cards is very important because that increases the chances that you'll draw better cards on your future turns. After each player has taken a full turn during the go-to-market phase, the players would then complete phase 4, cleaning the coop. Players will first check to see if the end of the game has been triggered. When doing this check, they'll compare the points that they have from any chickens currently to the points that they also have from their ribbon marker. And if a player has 10 or more total points between the 2 of those markers, the game would end and the remainder of this game phase would be ignored. If a player hasn't achieved 10 points, however, they would discard any remaining cards that they might still have in their hand, and the first player card would be passed to the next player clockwise around the table. A new round would then begin. It's important to note that point values for your chickens will be altered depending on the mood of the chicken. For instance, content chickens may provide different point values than happy chickens, and chickens that have run away will actually provide negative point values. For instance, if this player had this flock, they would actually have enough to trigger the end of the game during the clean the coop phase. If any players have 10 or more total points, the game will end and the winner will be the player with the highest total score. If there's a tie, the player with the highest total egg production of their flock would win, and if there's still a tie, the victory would be shared. Once you've played the game a few times, there's an advanced rule set that you can utilize that uses the event cards in the game, and in addition, there's suggestions in the appendix that gives advice for playing with younger or inexperienced players. Alright everybody, that was our video. Thanks so much for watching. We hope that it was helpful and we hope that it was informative. If you still have any questions about how to play, please comment below or email us directly at thedicey@gmail.com. Make sure and connect with us on social media or by visiting our Board Game Geek Guild. And once again, if you find this content helpful at all, please make sure to like and subscribe so you'll be notified whenever we put out new videos. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you at the table.